Greetings, students and Miss Erna. We are Jeffrey Young, Cristela Natanya, and Naushin Butt, here today with our environmental and aquaculture expert, as well as an international consultant, researcher, and lecturer, Dr. Louis Landesman. He is a development agent from Virginia State University with 35 years of global experience in aquaculture. Dr. Landesman has successfully carried out aquaculture programs in Asia, Africa, Central America, and the United States. A former visitor and speaker in I3L, please welcome Dr. Landesman. Hello, Doctor.
Hello.
Thank you for joining with us today. And we're going to ask you a few questions. So let's get right on to it. Our first question for you is, what are you working on right now, sir?
I'm just doing my job with managing the fish farm at Virginia State University.
Any current researches that that you'd like to share?
Not at the moment.
Oh.
Not right now, no.
I see. So interestingly enough, we found two articles that inspired us to contact you actually. First one is Modeling Duckweed Growth in Wastewater Systems and Plant Nutrient Phytoremediation Using Duckweed. And we would like to ask you more on these two articles basically. So what would be important for setting up treatment facilities for agricultural wastewater using duckweed? What would be the key points, according to you, for doing so?
Well, you must measure the nutrients in the wastewater.
Yes.
And then you should have a handle on the flow rate, how much wastewater is being released by the treatment facility. And then you should have an idea of what to do with the duckweed after you harvest it.
All right.
Okay, so what is the market potential of duckweed as a treatment for wastewater?
Well, there's no defined market at the moment. It is being grown to feed larval fish in parts of Asia, but there's you can't bring a bucket of duckweed to the market and say, here, give me $1 million rupiah for it. The defined market doesn't exist yet.
So, if there isn't any market for it right now, how could it sort of develop in the future? What would be the criteria for developing the market for duckweed?
Well, you have to analyze the duckweed, find out its nutritional composition, then determine if there are any toxic metals or heavy metals or pathogens in the duckweed, which might get to your animals after they eat it. And most importantly, you have to find a buyer who's going to purchase small amounts of duckweed which are being harvested weekly or daily, rather than conventional product which is tons and tons of material which is used at one time. So you definitely have marketing issue.
I see.
So, if in the future, what kind of company would you direct these methods for wet scale applications?
I would try to target companies that are specialized in wastewater treatment, because their main source of income would be treating the wastewater, and the duckweed would be supplemental. Because I don't think you'll have enough duckweed coming from one facility to justify trying to approach a female. Unless you can find some special product in the duckweed which is some special interest.
Are there any companies currently existing that focus on duckweed for wastewater treatment?
There used to be one in the U.S. called Level International, but they've dropped the duckweed and they just focus on covers, green plastic covers for wastewater treatment facilities.
Okay.
So they started with duckweed and they left it.
Okay. And so duckweed has been sort of interesting tool for phytoremediation. What are the other possible phytoremediation techniques that could synergize along with duckweed? Maybe another.
Well, using constructed wetlands where duckweed is a component, that would be interesting. And then the wastewater treatment industry has been doing this for many years, using constructed wetlands to treat wastewater. Particularly in Europe, but in the US as well.
I see. Okay.
limitations of the industrial scale of duckweed?
The main limitation duckweed has is 95% moisture. So you only have 5 or 6% dry matter from let's say a bucket or a net full of duckweed. So after you dry the duckweed, you only have a small amount of material to use, either feed or some other purpose. That's the main limitation.
Are there any other limitations that you have encountered during your research?
Well, if you keep duckweed around for quite a while without refrigeration, or at least some attempt at drying, it begins to smell. It becomes like weed manure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite perishable.
I see, I see.
And then, what are the events and occurrence in your life that inspired you to start working in wastewater treatment using duckweed?
In 1995, when I was studying for my PhD in Lafayette, Louisiana, I visited the wastewater treatment plant in a nearby town, and I saw all the wildlife living in the duckweed and all the insects and snakes and turtles and other creatures, and so I was inspired by that.
I see.
I see. Interesting. But why duckweed specifically? Was it because of your inspiration back in 1995, or why not any other phytoremediation techniques of other plants, perhaps?
Well, I'm originally interested in wastewater constructed wetland, but when I visited this wastewater treatment plant in nearby town, and 2 or 3 of them, and I saw the duckweed, I thought this is the simplest thing I could use to design a research project. Because constructed wetland has a variety of plants, so it's difficult to get try to test a hypothesis with a range of plants. But here, the duckweed is one plant, and you can grow it, and it's fairly straightforward.
And during your time working in these different countries and in fact different continents, which country was rather interesting for you, like personally, for you to research?
Indonesia.
Oh, thank you so much. Any particular reason?
I like the food.
Oh, alright. Yes, definitely.
So far, in your career as a biologist, what kind of obstacles that you have encountered during the research progress?
Well, trying to find full-time employment, that was the biggest obstacle.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Finding full-time employment, that was the biggest obstacle.
Okay. What about difficulties or obstacles during your time outside US? Maybe.
Well, I rarely spent more than 2 or 3 weeks at all these trips. And the client who sponsored these trips, they took care of me pretty well during my travels.
What about seasonal changes that would possibly affect duckweed?
In winter, the duckweed pulpits and falls down to the bottom of the pond.
Sorry?
In winter, the duckweed dies.
Right.
Louisiana is fairly warm in winter, so the duckweed continued growing, but in Virginia, the duckweed would die.
Okay, interesting. Well, we are pretty much done with most of the questions. We would just like to take some personal, we just wanted a personal take from you. So we as biotechnologists, young biotechnologists and bioinformaticists here in Indonesia, do you have any message for us, the young scientists in Indonesia?
Try to go to conferences, try to make network, do some networking before you graduate.
Okay.
Don't just assume that here's my diploma, come and get me. No, you have to make a lot of connections and networking before you graduate, so the private sector or other institutions will know who you are, and that'll be easier for you when job opportunities do arise. So the more you network, the more you make your presence known, your identity known, the better your job prospects.
All right. Thank you for important note. Just again, on a more personal level, when would you like to visit Indonesia? When do you plan to visit Indonesia? Again.
Next year, if possible.
Oh,
But I can't afford to go off my own. Someone has to pay, so that's the case.
I see. So do you have plans of visiting Trio again?
Of course.
Okay. We believe that you have a research sort of, like there's a proposal that we are trying to collaborate with you.
Yes.
Um,
With Soma, is Soma still there?
yes,
Yes.
yes, definitely. She's still here.
All right. Ask her to contact me tomorrow. All right, when you go to class tomorrow.
All right, definitely.
Tell her if you talk with me. Tell her that I highly recommend her teaching skills and her personality. And she is a wonderful person, and you're lucky to have her.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we have pretty much gone through all the questions, but maybe if you could take 5 minutes of your time just to discuss about life as a biotech expert or as a scientist in Virginia.
Well, I don't have a proper faculty position. I'm just managing the fish farm. So I'm not the right person to ask about that. I'm not doing research. I don't have any students. We don't have a graduate school here. So I'm not in the mainstream of academia.
So I think that's all the questions we have today. Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Thank you for your time and your answers to our questions, Doctor. And
Okay.
your presence with us today is greatly appreciated.